The Doll in the Dark. The storm that night was unlike any other. Rain poured like shards of glass, and the wind howled through the broken windows of the old mansion that sat on the hill above the silent town of Ravenmore. Most people avoided that road. Everyone in the town knew the stories about the mansion, about the girl, and about her doll. It had been abandoned for years, but tonight, there was light inside. The faint glow of a candle flickered through the cracked window. Inside, a young woman stood alone in a dusty hallway, her reflection faintly visible in a broken mirror. Her name was Lena Marlowe, a dream researcher from the city. She had come to Ravenmore to study local legends about dream spirits that haunted people's sleep. But this story was different. They called her the Dream Girl, a girl who appeared in people's dreams, always holding a doll, a porcelain-faced thing with eyes too real to be glass. Every person who dreamed of her vanished within 7 nights. The only clue left behind was the sound of a child's laughter and a faint smell of roses. Lena didn't believe it. She thought it was superstition, the kind small towns always held on to. She came here to prove that the Dream Girl wasn't real, that it was just the human mind creating stories out of fear. But when she stepped inside that mansion, something felt wrong. The air was heavy, almost alive. The sound of the storm outside seemed distant now, muffled, like she had stepped into another world. Her flashlight flickered as she moved deeper inside. Dust floated like snowflakes in the dim light. Every step echoed down the empty hall. And then she saw it. A doll. It sat in the middle of the hallway floor, dressed in a pale blue dress that looked clean. Too clean for this place. Its porcelain face was cracked along one cheek, and its eyes seemed to glisten in the dark. Lena crouched down, confused. "Someone's been here," she whispered. She reached out slowly, hesitant but curious. The doll's eyes seemed to follow her hand. Just as her fingers brushed its hair, a whisper passed through the air. "Don't wake her." Lena froze. Her heart slammed in her chest. The whisper was close, right behind her ear, but when she spun around, no one was there. Only the long, dark hallway, stretching into the shadows. Her breathing quickened. "Hello," she called out. "Who's there?" No answer. But then she noticed something else. Small footprints on the dusty floor, child-sized, leading away from the doll. Her flashlight trembled as she followed them. The footprints went toward a large closed door at the end of the hall. The brass handle was cold when she touched it. Slowly, she turned it and pushed the door open. Inside was a bedroom, untouched by time. A music box sat on the vanity, still open, the tune faintly playing, though it should have long been broken. A half-burned candle flickered beside it. On the wall hung a painting of a little girl holding the very same doll. The girl's face in the painting was peaceful, innocent, but her eyes seemed sad, almost pleading. Lena stepped closer. The music box continued its tune, over and over. Something about it made her uneasy. She picked up the doll again, turning it over in her hands. That's when the music box stopped. The sound died mid-note. The candle went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, a giggle. Soft, childlike. It came from the corner. Lena's breath caught. She turned her flashlight in that direction, and for a brief second, she saw her. A little girl standing in the corner, her head tilted, her hair covering her face. Her white dress was torn and gray with dust. In her arms, she held another doll, identical to the one in Lena's hands. The girl whispered, almost gently, "You took her." Lena dropped the doll. It hit the floor, but instead of breaking, it rolled slightly, its cracked face now looking up at her. The girl stepped forward, slow and silent. The air grew colder with each step she took. "She was mine," the voice said again, but it was layered now. echoing like multiple voices speaking at once. Lena stumbled back, her flashlight shaking in her grip. "Who are you?" she demanded. The little girl raised her face. Her eyes were empty sockets, black and hollow. Lena gasped, and the light flickered. When it came back, the girl was gone. The doll lay still on the floor. The music box started again, but now it played backward. Lena backed away, heart racing, and ran out of the room, slamming the door behind her. She leaned against the wall, trembling. Her rational mind tried to explain it. Maybe she was tired. Maybe it was a hallucination. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. That doll, it wasn't just an object. It felt alive. She needed to leave. Now. But when she turned to go back down the hall, her flashlight flickered again, and she realized the layout of the house had changed. The hallway was different. The stairs she came from were gone. Every door looked identical. The mansion was alive. And somewhere inside it, the giggle came again, louder this time. Lena gripped the flashlight, forcing herself to move forward. Every instinct screamed to get out, but curiosity and fear drove her deeper into the house. When she turned another corner, she saw movement, a shadow darting past. Then, a voice, close and clear. "She's dreaming again." Lena stopped cold. The whisper wasn't behind her this time. It came from inside her own mind. Her vision blurred for a second. The walls seemed to breathe. The doll's laughter echoed from somewhere nearby. And then, a door slowly creaked open at the end of the hall. Inside, a soft golden light spilled out. She stepped toward it, trembling. Inside was another room, this one filled with hundreds of dolls, all sitting neatly on shelves, staring straight ahead. In the center of the room was a single child's bed. On it lay a girl, pale, motionless, eyes closed as if asleep. Next to her hand sat the same doll, the same cracked porcelain face. Lena's voice shook. "Are you the dream girl?" The girl's lips moved, but the voice that came out wasn't human. She never woke up. Then all the dolls turned their heads toward Lena at once. The candlelight flickered and went out. The candlelight vanished, leaving Lena in total darkness. For a moment, she couldn't move. She could still hear the faint music box tune playing backward somewhere in the room. Soft, distorted, wrong. She turned her flashlight back on with trembling hands. The beam flickered weakly, cutting through the dark. All the dolls were still staring. Hundreds of small porcelain faces turned toward her, blank, cracked, lifeless. Yet, their eyes seemed alive, watching her every breath. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. She took one small step back. The wooden floor creaked loudly under her shoe. And that's when one doll blinked. Lena froze. She wasn't imagining it. She saw the movement clearly. Its eyes shut, then opened again, and the faintest sound of a child's giggle echoed around the room. Something deep inside her whispered to run. But she didn't. Instead, she slowly turned toward the little girl lying on the bed, the same girl she'd seen in the painting, the same one from the story. The dream girl. The girl looked peaceful, almost sleeping. Her skin was pale as snow, her hair soft and light against the pillow. A faint smile touched her lips. The doll lay beside her hand, its cracked face pointed toward Lena. Lena stepped closer. "You're just a girl," she whispered. "You can't be real. You died long ago." For a moment, everything was silent. Then, the girl's lips moved. "Did I?" Lena jumped back. The voice was quiet, almost sweet, but hollow, echoing as if spoken from somewhere far away. The girl's eyes opened. They were wide, pale blue, and empty. No light, no life. "I was dreaming," the girl said softly, her voice distant, almost like someone remembering something painful. "I wanted to wake up, but she wouldn't let me." Lena's throat went dry. "Who?" she asked. The girl blinked slowly. "Her." And then the doll sat up. Its porcelain joints cracked softly as it straightened itself beside the girl. Its eyes turned toward Lena, and the faintest smile appeared on its tiny lips. Lena stumbled back, her light shaking. "No, no, this isn't real." The doll's head tilted. "Don't wake her," it whispered, the same voice she'd heard in the hallway earlier. "If she wakes, I sleep forever." The air in the room grew thick, almost heavy enough to choke her. The dolls on the shelves started rocking slightly, their heads turning side to side in a slow, eerie rhythm. The room filled with the faint hum of hundreds of voices whispering together. "Don't wake her! Don't wake her!" Lena pressed her hands to her ears, her flashlight beam waving wildly. "Stop it!" she shouted. The whispers stopped. The doll turned its head toward her again. "You shouldn't be here," it said in a calm, cold tone. "She dreams of you now." Lena's blood ran cold. "What? What do you mean?" The doll smiled wider, showing too many tiny, perfect teeth. "You touched her world. Now it will touch you." Suddenly, a flashlight in Lena's hand died. The darkness swallowed her whole. She could hear footsteps, light, childlike, circling her. A soft humming tune filled the air, the same as the broken music box. Lena's voice trembled. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" A whisper brushed against her ear, so close she felt the cold breath. "To dream again." Then something grabbed her wrist. She screamed, jerking away, stumbling toward the faint outline of the door. Her hand found the doorknob, but it wouldn't move. It was cold as ice, frozen shut. Behind her, the humming grew louder. The dolls began to move, slow, stiff motions as they turned their heads and lifted their arms toward her. "Wake her up," one voice whispered. "Wake her up," another hissed. "Wake her up," 100 voices screamed together. Lena turned and kicked the door open with all her strength. It slammed against the wall, and she ran. Through the dark hallway, heart pounding, flashlight flickering weakly to life again. She didn't stop running until she reached the front hall of the mansion. The door stood ahead, her way out. But when she pulled it open, it wasn't the outside. It was the same bedroom again. The bed, the dolls, the girl. Lena's scream caught in her throat. She stumbled backward, tears burning in her eyes. "No, no, this isn't real," she cried. The girl on the bed sat up. Her head turned slowly toward Lena. "This is her dream," she whispered softly. "You're already inside it." The floor shook violently. The dolls began to fall off the shelves one by one, hitting the floor with hollow thuds. Their glass eyes rolled toward Lena, following her as she backed away. The doll beside the girl stood upright now, holding its tiny porcelain hand toward Lena. "Stay," it whispered. "Forever." The walls began to warp and twist, the wood bending like breathing flesh. Lena screamed and ran again, pushing through the door. But every door led back to the same room. The same bed, the same girl, the same doll. Finally, she collapsed near the bed, gasping. "Please," she whispered, trembling. "What do you want?" The dream girl leaned closer, her empty eyes staring right into Lena's. "She took my dreams. I took hers. Now we share them." And before Lena could react, the girl touched her forehead. Instantly, Lena's body froze. Her eyes rolled back, and she fell limp to the floor. The doll smiled. The candlelight flickered back to life. The girl lay back down on her bed, the faint sound of the music box starting again, soft, sweet, and endless. Lena's flashlight rolled across the floor and came to a stop. Its beam pointed at the mirror, where two figures were now reflected instead of one. The girl and Lena, both asleep, both smiling. The doll turned toward the mirror, her voice soft and calm. She dreams now, just like me. Then the mirror cracked, splitting their faces into 1,000 shards. Outside, the storm stopped. The mansion went silent once more. Only the faint giggle of a child echoed from inside, and the slow creak of the doll's porcelain head turning toward the door. The morning light never came. Lena's eyes opened to the same dim glow of candlelight. For a long moment, she didn't move. Her body felt heavy, like she'd slept for 100 years. The air was thick, unmoving, filled with the faint smell of wax and dust. When she finally sat up, she realized she was lying on the same bed as before. The same cracked wallpaper, the same dolls staring from the shelves. But the room was different. Everything looked older. The colors were faded, like memories left too long in the sun. The wooden furniture was decayed, warped. The once white curtains now hung in tatters. The girl was gone. Only the doll sat on the pillow beside her. Its cracked porcelain face was smiling. Lena's throat tightened. "No," she whispered, standing up quickly. "No, this isn't real. I have to get out." She stumbled toward the door, but before she reached it, the floor shifted. The boards bent upward, twisting like something alive beneath the wood. She backed away, staring as the pattern of the cracks formed shapes. Words burned into the floorboards. "She dreams. Ev, or are you now?" Lena's breath hitched. Her eyes darted around the room. "Where are you?" she shouted. "What do you want from me?" The doll turned its head, ever so slightly. Its voice was soft, almost kind. "She wants to wake up, but she needs someone to dream for her first." Lena shook her head. "I'm not staying here. I'm not part of this." The doll blinked, slow, unnatural, like a camera shutter closing. "You already are." And then the sound began again. The faint, twisted melody of the music box, that same backwards tune, rose from somewhere beneath the floor. It grew louder, faster, until the entire room seemed to pulse with the rhythm. Lena dropped to her knees, clutching her ears. "Stop it! Stop it!" But it wouldn't stop. The dolls began to fall one by one, shattering into pieces on the floor. From their hollow bodies spilled ashes and whispers. The voices were faint but endless. "We dreamed once. We dreamed once." Lena crawled backward, shaking her head. "What is this place?" she whispered. The doll looked down at her from the bed. A dream that forgot how to end. Lena's flashlight, lying near the corner, flickered back to life on its own. The beam hit the wall, and she saw something that made her heart stop. The wallpaper was peeling, and beneath it, hundreds of faces were painted into the wall. Human faces, eyes wide open, mouths frozen mid-scream. Their features twisted and stretched as if the wall itself had swallowed them. And among them, she saw herself, her own terrified face, staring back at her from inside the wall. She screamed and stumbled away, crashing into the dresser. The mirror above it cracked. Her reflection blinked, but she hadn't. The reflection smiled. "You shouldn't have touched the doll." Lena froze. "What are you?" The reflection tilted its head. "You, almost." Then it reached out from the mirror, its hand breaking through the glass with a soft, wet sound. Its cold fingers brushed Lena's cheek. She screamed and swung her flashlight, shattering the mirror completely. The glass exploded into glittering dust, falling around her like snow. When she looked back, the reflection was gone. But something else was there now. The little girl stood in the doorway. Her white dress was torn. Her bare feet were black with soot. She looked at Lena with empty blue eyes, head tilted slightly. "You're still here," the girl said softly. "That's good." Lena stepped back, gripping her flashlight. "Stay away from me." The girl took one step forward. "Don't be afraid. The doll chose you. I don't want it." Lena shouted. "I don't want any of this." The girl's lips curved into a faint smile. It's too late. The room began to shift again, the walls stretching, the ceiling bending downward as if the house was breathing. The light flickered violently, and the girl's shadow grew longer, until it reached Lena's feet, and then it moved on its own. The shadow climbed up her body, wrapping around her legs, her arms. It was cold, wet, and heavy. Lena tried to scream, but no sound came out. The girl's voice echoed around the room, overlapping with the dolls, with the whispers of the trapped souls in the walls. She dreamed me first. Now I dream her. And you will dream for both. Lena fought to move, to tear herself free, but the darkness pulled tighter. She could feel something inside her mind, like fingers brushing against her thoughts. Her memories began to blur. Her mother's face, her childhood home, her own name, all fading. No, she gasped, clutching her head. I won't forget. I won't. The girl's cold hand touched her chest. Everyone forgets when they dream too long. Lena's body convulsed, her vision flashing white, and suddenly she wasn't in the room anymore. She stood in a vast gray field beneath a sky of unmoving clouds. The air was silent, thick with fog. In the distance, she saw the mansion, rotting, endless, its windows glowing faintly red. And at its doorstep stood hundreds of children, all holding dolls, all with empty eyes. They turned toward her as one. Wake her up, they whispered. Lena backed away. No, no, I'm not part of this. The ground cracked open beneath her feet, revealing a mirror-like surface. She looked down and saw the dream girl's face staring up at her from the reflection. The girl smiled. And then she spoke through her reflection. Thank you for dreaming, Lena. Lena's eyes widened in horror. No, stop. The reflection's hand reached through the surface and grabbed her ankle, pulling her down. She screamed as she fell, dragged into the dark mirror below. When the light faded, the gray field was empty. Only one small porcelain doll lay where she had stood, its cracked face painted with a faint smile. Its eyes blinked once, and then the music box started again. The storm outside had ended long ago, but inside the mansion, the air still felt heavy, like a storm trapped within the walls. Somewhere deep under the cracked floors and rotting hallways, Lena's voice echoed faintly, but it wasn't the same anymore. Above ground, the mansion stood silent. The doors were open. The candles burned low, and in the middle of the dusty living room sat the doll, perfectly still. It had been 3 days since the archaeologists last heard from Lena. They had come looking for her, drawn by her last radio transmission, a whisper filled with static. Don't touch the doll. It dreams. Dr. Eleanor Voss, the team leader, was the first to step inside. Stay close, she warned her crew. No one goes off alone. They nodded nervously. The team was made of scientists, not ghost hunters. But curiosity had brought them here, to a mansion that officially didn't exist, on land where no map showed any structure. As they moved deeper, the sound of their boots echoed through the endless halls. Eleanor stopped suddenly. She had seen something on the wall under a thick layer of dust. She brushed it off with her gloved hand and froze. It was a painting. At first glance, it was beautiful. A girl sitting in a chair, holding a doll in her arms. But the longer Eleanor looked, the more wrong it felt. The girl's eyes were too real, her face too lifelike, and the doll she held, its cracked porcelain smile, looked exactly like the one sitting behind them in the room. Professor, one of her assistants said quietly, "That doll. Look." Eleanor turned. The doll's head had moved. It was now facing them. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the assistant took a step closer. Maybe it's wind? But there was no wind. Not even dust moved in the air. Eleanor swallowed hard. "Take a photo of it," she said. "We need to document everything." As the camera flashed, the entire mansion flickered. The walls seemed to breathe. The air grew thick with the sound of children laughing, softly, from far away. Everyone froze. "Was that?" someone whispered. The laughter came again, this time clearer. It was coming from beneath them, from below the floor. Eleanor pointed to the old rug at the center of the room. "Move it." They pulled it aside, revealing a hatch. Rusted, locked, sealed for decades. With effort, they pried it open. A narrow staircase led into darkness. "Keep your lights on," Eleanor said, her voice trembling slightly. The steps creaked as they descended, one by one, into the underground level of the mansion. The air grew colder. The smell of rot and old wood filled their lungs. At the bottom of the stairs, their lights revealed a long hallway lined with glass cases. Inside each case was a doll. Hundreds of them, all facing the same direction, all smiling. Some had names written under them, handwritten tags with dates and ages. Eleanor's voice was a whisper. "These aren't toys." The assistant pointed. "Professor, that one says Lena Morgan." Eleanor spun toward the glass. There it was, a doll that looked almost human, with brown hair and a faint scar on its cheek. Her stomach turned. "That's her." The assistant's hands shook. "This is impossible. She's gone." Before anyone could speak again, all the dolls' heads turned at once. Their eyes glowed faintly red in the dark. The sound of a music box began to play somewhere deeper in the hall. Eleanor whispered, "Don't move." But it was too late. The light flickered. The hallway around them seemed to stretch and warp. The glass cases vanished, replaced by a long, endless corridor filled with doors. And standing at the end of it was the little girl. She was holding the same doll from upstairs. Her voice was gentle. "You came for her. That's kind." Eleanor took a step forward. "Who are you?" The girl smiled faintly. "I'm the one who stayed. Someone has to take care of the dreamers." Eleanor frowned. "Dreamers?" The girl nodded. "They came here to sleep, and the house kept them safe. It gave them dreams. But dreams are hungry things. They need new minds to feed on." The team exchanged terrified looks. "You mean the house eats people's dreams?" The girl tilted her head. "Not at first. It just keeps them until they forget they're dreaming." Eleanor's heart pounded. "Where's Lena?" The girl stepped aside and pointed to one of the doors. "She's still dreaming. But she's close to waking. That's bad." "Why?" "Because when dreamers wake, the dream wakes with them." Suddenly, the door she pointed at began to shake violently. The music box sound grew louder, distorted. A cold wind rushed through the corridor. The little girl's eyes turned black. "She's coming." The door exploded open, and Lena stumbled out, gasping for breath. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Run," she screamed. "She's real. The dream girl. She's not a ghost. She's the house." The lights burst one by one as the ground split open. Black tendrils of smoke poured out, twisting through the corridor. The little girl's smile widened unnaturally. "No one leaves without dreaming." Eleanor grabbed Lena's arm. "Move." They ran toward the stairs, the floorboards breaking apart behind them. The dolls screamed, hundreds of voices merging into one monstrous sound. The girls' laughter followed them. "It's your turn now." Eleanor and Lena burst through the hatch and slammed it shut, gasping for air. The rest of the team was gone, vanished. Only the old doll sat on the floor where they'd first found it. Lena fell to her knees, trembling. "You shouldn't have come. Once you see the dream, it doesn't let you go." Eleanor looked at the doll, her voice shaking. "What happens now?" Lena's eyes filled with tears. "We're awake, but she's not done with us yet." The candles went out, and from somewhere deep below, the music box started to play again. Hush, little dreamer, sleep tight. The doll smiled in the dark. The morning light entered the room, weak and pale, as if afraid to touch the place where shadows waited. Emily opened her eyes slowly. Her head hurt, and her body felt cold. The last thing she remembered was the doll. She looked around. The doll wasn't beside her on the bed anymore. Instead, it was sitting on her desk, facing the mirror. Its cracked porcelain face seemed to smile at her reflection. Emily froze. The air in the room felt heavier now. There was something wrong with the way the mirror looked. The reflection of the doll was not moving the same way as the real one. Emily stood up carefully, her heart beating fast. She stepped closer to the mirror. In her reflection, the doll's head slowly turned toward her, but the real doll on the desk didn't move. Her throat went dry. Who are you?" Emily whispered. The reflection's lips moved. It didn't sound like a voice. It was more like a thought pressing inside her mind. "You know me, Emily. You've always known me." Emily's eyes widened. "No, I don't know you. Get out of my head." The mirror rippled like water. For a moment, she saw something behind the glass. A room, dark and endless, filled with other dolls staring out with lifeless eyes. And in the center of that place, she saw herself, smiling coldly, holding the haunted doll. Emily stumbled back, knocking over a chair. She ran toward the door, but when she grabbed the handle, it burned her skin. She screamed and pulled back. The handle glowed faintly red for a second before cooling down. "Stop running," the voice in her mind whispered again. "You're only running from yourself." Emily turned around, shaking. "Leave me alone." The mirror cracked slightly. The reflection smiled wider, even as her real face twisted in fear. "I can't leave you, Emily. We're the same now." Suddenly, the door burst open. Aunt Margaret stood there, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Emily, I heard you scream." She stopped when she saw the mirror. "Emily," Margaret said slowly, her voice breaking. "Step away from the mirror. Right now." Emily looked confused. "What's happening, Auntie?" "The doll." But when she turned back toward the desk, the doll was gone again. Margaret rushed forward and pulled Emily away. "Don't look at it. Don't talk to it. It feeds on you when you speak." "What do you mean?" Emily cried. "What is it?" Her aunt held her shoulders tightly. "That doll belonged to a girl from this house, a long time ago. She died in her sleep, clutching it. Her spirit." Margaret stopped, her eyes filling with fear. "Her spirit never left." Emily shook her head. "No, you're lying. It's just a doll." But deep inside, she already knew it wasn't. The nightmares, the voices, the feeling of being watched. They had all started after she found that doll. Margaret sighed shakily. "I tried to destroy it years ago. I burned it, buried it, but it always came back. It wants someone to play with. It wants a soul to keep." The mirror made a cracking noise again. Both of them looked up. The reflection showed something terrifying. Emily, still sitting on the bed, holding the doll, smiling faintly. But the real Emily was standing beside Margaret, shaking in fear. "Run," Margaret whispered. "Don't look back." They rushed out of the room. As soon as they crossed the doorway, the sound of laughter echoed behind them. Soft, childish, but full of darkness. Down the hall, the lights flickered. Shadows twisted along the walls, moving on their own. Emily looked back once. She couldn't help it, and saw her reflection in every picture frame they passed. It was smiling. It wasn't following them physically, but it was following them through every reflection. The glass, the windows, even the shine on the floor tiles. They reached the bottom of the stairs, panting. Margaret grabbed her phone and dialed someone. "Father Owens, She said quickly, "It's happening again. The doll's awake." Emily sat on the couch, hugging herself tightly. "A priest. You think that'll help?" Margaret nodded grimly. "He was here before. He sealed it once. But now, with you here, maybe it found a way to break free." Emily looked up, tears in her eyes. "Why me?" Her aunt hesitated. "Because you're like her. She was your age when she died. She had your same eyes." Thunder rumbled outside. Margaret turned toward the window. "He'll be here soon," she said, though her voice didn't sound sure. But before they could say more, a noise came from upstairs. Tap, 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 like small feet running across the wooden floor. Margaret froze. "Stay here," she whispered, grabbing a candle from the table. Emily shook her head. "No, don't go." But Margaret was already climbing the stairs. Each step creaked under her weight. A hallway above seemed darker now, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Emily waited, listening to every sound. Then, a scream. It was Margaret's voice. Emily jumped up and ran toward the stairs. "Aunt Margaret," she shouted. When she reached the top, the candlelight from her aunt's hand flickered weakly in the dark. The door to her room was wide open again. The mirror was glowing faintly blue. And there, lying on the floor, was the doll, smiling, holding the strand of Margaret's hair in its tiny porcelain hand. Emily's eyes filled with horror. The reflection in the mirror smiled at her again and whispered softly, "Now it's your turn, Emily. Come and play." The candle went out. Darkness swallowed the house. The darkness swallowed everything. For a moment, Emily couldn't breathe. The house was silent again, but it wasn't the kind of silence that brought peace. It was waiting silence, the kind that came before something terrible. "Aunt Margaret," she whispered into the black. No answer. Emily's hands shook as she searched for her phone. The screen lit up. Weak blue light. Just enough to see the long hallway in front of her. The air seemed heavy, thick like fog. Her own breath made small white clouds. She walked forward slowly. The floor creaked under her bare feet. The light from her phone flickered, then dimmed. "Aunt Margaret, please answer me." Something moved ahead. Emily froze. In the middle of the hallway stood the doll. Its cracked porcelain face looked freshly painted now. The cracks were gone. It stood perfectly straight, its head tilted slightly to the side, as if watching her every move. "Where's my aunt?" Emily asked in a trembling voice. The doll's eyes blinked. And then it smiled. Emily took a step back, and suddenly, every mirror in the hallway lit up at once. There weren't mirrors there before, but now the walls were full of them. Each reflection showed something different. In one, she was standing behind herself. In another, she was lying dead on the floor. In another, she was smiling with blood running down her face. "No," she whispered. "This isn't real." A voice answered her from the mirror. "Everything you see is real somewhere." Emily turned and saw her reflection move on its own. It raised its hand when she didn't. It smiled wider than humanly possible. Then slowly, it pointed behind her. Emily turned around, but there was nothing there. When she turned back, her reflection was gone. The doll had disappeared too. Emily's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked at the screen. An unknown number calling. She answered with shaking fingers. Hello." A deep, calm voice spoke. "Emily, this is Father Owens. Your aunt called me before the line went dead. You must listen carefully." Emily's heart leaped. "Father Owens. Please help me. The doll. It's taken her. She's gone." "I know," the priest said quietly. "The spirit attached to that doll is ancient. It binds itself through reflections, mirrors, glass, even water. You cannot trust what you see." Emily turned slowly toward the end of the hall. Her reflection flickered again. this time smiling with the doll in her arms. "What do I do?" she whispered. "Find the doll's heart," Owen said. "It's not in the doll. It's hidden inside the mirror world. You must break the link before midnight. If you don't, it will replace you completely." Emily swallowed hard. "How do I go in?" There was silence on the other end. Then Father Owen said, "It will pull you in when it feels you're ready. But beware, child. Once you're inside, you may not come back alone." The call ended. Emily stood in the dim light, her breath fast and shallow. Then suddenly, the floor beneath her shimmered like glass. The air around her rippled. She screamed. But before she could move, the floor cracked open like a mirror breaking. And she fell through. She landed hard on something cold and wet. The air here smelled like dust and rot. When she stood up, she realized she wasn't in her house anymore. She was in a twisted version of it, the mirror world. Everything looked familiar, but wrong. The walls were blackened, the lights flickered endlessly, and the paintings on the walls showed people staring at her with hollow eyes. The mirrors were everywhere, some hanging from ceilings, others cracked and crawling with shadows. Emily's voice echoed softly, "Aunt Margaret." Something answered, a whisper, faint and broken. "Emily, help me." It was her aunt's voice. Emily ran toward it. Her footsteps splashed through puddles of black water that reflected faces, faces that weren't hers. She turned a corner and froze. Aunt Margaret was there, but her reflection wasn't matching her. Margaret's real body stood still, eyes open but blank, while her reflection moved freely, smiling at Emily. "Come closer, dear," the reflection said gently. "I need your help." Emily shook her head. "You're not her." The reflection's smile faded. "Oh, Emily." But she wanted to stay here. She wanted to save you. Suddenly, the reflection's hands pressed against the glass and began pushing outward, its body stretching and twisting until it stepped out of the mirror. Emily screamed and ran. The hallway twisted around her like a maze. The walls moved. The doors changed places. Every time she looked back, the reflection followed, walking calmly, whispering her name. Finally, Emily stumbled into a large room, the same bedroom, but in the mirror world. The doll sat on the bed, waiting. "You came," it said softly. Its voice was a mix of many, children, women, even men, all speaking at once. "Now we can finish what we started." Emily clenched her fists. "Where's my aunt?" The doll tilted its head. "Gone. Unless you trade places." Emily's heart pounded. She remembered Father Owen's words. "Find the heart." Her eyes darted around the room. Then she saw it. Inside the mirror, behind the doll's reflection, there was a glowing red heart, beating slowly. Emily grabbed a piece of broken glass and ran toward the mirror. The doll screamed, its voice echoing through the entire room. "Don't touch it, that's mine." Emily ignored it. She slammed the glass into the mirror, once, twice, until the glass began to crack. The doll screeched. The whole world shook. "Emily." She turned. Aunt Margaret's voice again. But this time, it was real. Her aunt was reaching out from behind a veil of light. "Break it, Emily. Now." Emily screamed and struck one last time. The mirror shattered completely. Light exploded around her. The doll's scream turned into 1,000 voices crying out at once. The world folded inward, pulling the shadows with it. And then, silence. Emily fell to her knees, gasping for air. She was back in her real room. The mirror was gone. The doll lay on the floor, cracked, lifeless. Aunt Margaret sat beside her, crying softly but smiling. "It's over," she whispered. "You did it." Emily nodded slowly, tears running down her face. But when she looked at the window's reflection, she froze. In the glass, just for a second, her reflection smiled back. But she wasn't smiling. For a few days, everything seemed peaceful again. The sun rose over the old farmhouse, and Emily and Aunt Margaret tried to act like nothing had happened. The broken mirror was gone. The doll's remains had been buried deep in the forest, and the house finally felt normal, almost too normal. But sometimes, late at night, Emily could still hear the faint ticking sound. It came from nowhere, soft, steady, like a heartbeat that refused to die. At first, she ignored it, until the ticking began to follow her. It was raining that night. Aunt Margaret had gone to the village for supplies, leaving Emily alone in the house. The wind howled through the old windows, and thunder rolled across the hills. Emily sat by the fireplace, hugging her knees, watching the flames dance. The storm outside was loud, but not loud enough to cover the small sound she heard. Tap, tap, tap. She froze. The sound was coming from upstairs. Her heart started to beat faster. She told herself it was just the rain. But deep down, she knew the sound was too slow, too careful, too alive. Tap, tap, tap. It was the same rhythm the doll used to make when it walked. Emily stood, holding a candle in her shaking hand. The flame flickered as she stepped toward the stairs. Each creak of the wood echoed through the house like a whisper. She reached the top of the stairs and looked down the hallway. The same hallway where she had once seen the doll, the mirrors, the twisted reflections. Everything looked normal, but the tapping sound was louder now. It came from her room. She pushed the door open. The candlelight revealed her bed, her desk, her books. Everything untouched. But the window was fogged from the inside, as if something had been breathing against it. Emily slowly walked closer. The candle trembled in her hand. There, drawn on the glass in the mist, were 3 small words. I am home. Emily stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. No, she whispered. You're gone. You're gone. Her own reflection in the window smiled. And then, just like before, the reflection blinked. But Emily hadn't. The storm outside grew wilder. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, Emily saw her reflection move differently again. It turned its head toward the door, as if it saw something behind her. Emily turned fast, but no one was there. When she looked back at the glass, her reflection was gone. Only the dark, empty window stared back. And then, a giggle. A soft, childish giggle from behind her. Emily spun around. The candle fell from her hand and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Something small brushed past her ankle. Who's there? She shouted, voice breaking. The giggle came again, closer now, right beside her ear. Then, a whisper. Play with me. Emily screamed and ran for the door, but it slammed shut by itself, locking her in. She pulled, kicked, cried. Nothing worked. Then, through the window, lightning flashed again. In that flash, she saw it. The doll, standing in the corner of the room, its cracked face stitched back together, one glass eye glowing faintly red. You broke me, it whispered in a small, trembling voice. So I borrowed something from you. Emily stepped back, shaking her head in disbelief. You can't be real. You're gone. The doll tilted its head. Not gone. Never gone. You brought me back when you looked in the mirror. And with that, the doll's head turned completely backward, and its limbs started twitching, moving like a spider crawling across the floor. Emily ran to the window and smashed it with a chair. She climbed out into the rain, barefoot, heart pounding. She didn't look back. She ran across the field, mud splashing around her legs. But she could still hear it, the giggling, and the voice, now coming from inside her own head. You can't run from what's inside you. By morning, Aunt Margaret returned. The front door was open. The house was cold. She called out, Emily. No answer. Upstairs, Emily's room was empty, but the words, "I am home," were still written on the window. On the bed sat the doll, perfectly clean, its cracks gone, its eyes bright. Margaret fell to her knees sobbing. She reached for the doll, but then froze. The doll blinked and smiled. Days passed. The villagers searched the woods and fields for Emily, but she was never found. Some said she had run away. Others believed the storm took her. But at night, when the wind was quiet, people swore they could hear a young girl humming near the old farmhouse, a soft lullaby, the same tune the doll once played. The house was abandoned after that. No one dared to enter, until one night, many years later, a young couple driving through the countryside saw a faint light glowing inside the ruined house. Curious, they stopped their car and walked closer. Through the cracked window, they saw a girl sitting on a chair, brushing the hair of a porcelain doll. She looked pale, her long hair covering her face. The man called out, "Hello, are you all right?" The girl slowly turned her head toward them. Her eyes were empty, her lips smiling too wide. And when lightning flashed, the couple saw their own reflections in the window, standing behind the girl, holding the same doll. But they were still outside. The light inside the house went out, and the doll started humming again.